Most of us have heard the story of the prodigal son so many times that we think we already know what it means. A son wastes his inheritance, hits rock bottom, comes home, and his father forgives him. That is the version most of us grew up with, and it is a beautiful version. But I want to show you something deeper hiding inside this story. Because when I read this parable slowly and carefully, I keep coming back to one thing that changes everything about how I understand it. The real crisis in this story was never about money. The real crisis was about identity. And the moment that changes everything is not the moment the father forgives the son. It is the moment the son remembers who he actually is. Let us start right at the beginning of the parable, because the very first thing the younger son does is more shocking than most people realize when they first hear it. He goes to his father and asks for his share of the inheritance now, while the father is still alive. In the culture Jesus was speaking to, this was not just rude, it was devastating. It was essentially telling your father, "I wish you were dead." The inheritance belonged to the son after his father's death. Asking for it early was a way of saying he could not wait for that. He wanted out of the family now, not later, now. And what does the father do? He divides the estate and gives the son what he asks for. He does not argue, he does not guilt-trip him, he lets him go. This is the first identity moment in the story. The son is rejecting not just the money, but the whole framework of who he is. The son goes to a distant country and wastes everything in wild living. The money runs out, a famine hits, and he ends up doing the thing that no Jewish person in Jesus' audience could have heard without feeling it in their gut. He ends up feeding pigs. Pigs were unclean animals in Jewish culture. Working with them was about as low as a person could go. And he is so hungry that he wants to eat what the pigs are eating. Nobody gives him anything. He is completely alone, completely emptied out. And this is where I want you to notice something. At this point in the story, the son has lost everything outwardly. But the real loss happened before any of that. It happened the moment he stopped seeing himself as a son and started seeing himself as someone who needed to escape. The far country did not create his poverty. The far country revealed what was already true on the inside. That he had already abandoned his identity long before he lost his money. We all have a version of the far country, not a literal place, but a season, a decision, a relationship, a habit where we move so far from who we really are that we start to forget the shape of our own face. And the further we go, the harder it becomes to remember the way back. Not because the way back has closed, but because we have stopped believing we belong there anymore. Now here is the moment I keep coming back to, the moment that I think is the real hinge of the entire story. Luke chapter 15 verse 17 says this, "When he came to himself," 4 words, and those 4 words are doing everything in this story. He came to himself, not he came to his senses, not he realized he had been bad. He came to himself. He returned to something. He remembered something that was true about him even while he was sitting in the mud feeding pigs. The turning point in this story is not repentance in the way we usually think about it. It is not a formal confession or a religious ceremony. It is a remembering. He suddenly remembers that he is a son. He remembers that there is a father and a home and a place where he belongs. And that memory, that reconnection to his own identity, is what starts the whole journey home. I want to sit with that for a moment because I think it is one of the most important things Jesus ever said about what it means to come back to God. He did not say the son came up with a better plan, or developed more discipline, or punished himself into worthiness. He says the son came to himself, as if the truest version of who he was had been waiting for him the whole time, and he just had to stop running long enough to find it again. On the way home, the son rehearses a speech. And this speech is one of the most psychologically honest moments in all of Scripture, because it tells us exactly what shame does to a person's sense of self. He is not just asking for a job. He is renegotiating his identity downward. He is saying, "I know I lost the right to be called your son, so do not call me that. Call me a servant. Give me a lesser place. I will take less than what I was born into." And this is what shame always does. It does not just make us feel bad about what we did. It tells us that what we did has permanently changed what we are. That the failure is now the definition. That the worst thing we ever did is the truest thing about us. The son genuinely believed he was no longer worthy of the name that had been his from birth. He had traded his identity away, and now he was trying to settle for whatever lesser version the father might be willing to offer a disgraced stranger who used to be family. But what happens next is the thing that undoes all of that. And it happens before the son even gets close enough to finish his speech. In the culture Jesus was teaching in, a man of dignity and status did not run. Running in public was undignified. It was the behavior of children and servants, not of respected fathers and landowners. And yet the father in this story sees his son coming from a long way off and he runs. He gathers up his robe and he runs down the road to meet his son before his son can make it all the way home on his own. The father does not wait for the confession. He does not stand at the door with crossed arms waiting to hear the apology before he decides whether the son has earned a welcome. He runs, while the son is still a long way off. This tells me something enormous about how God sees people who are on their way back. He does not wait for them to complete the journey before he begins responding. He moves toward them while they are still in the middle of the road, still rehearsing their apology, still not sure whether they will be received or turned away. And when he reaches the son, the father does not let him finish the speech. The son starts in, "Father, I have sinned. I am no longer worthy to be called your son." And before he can get to the part about being a hired servant, the father is already calling for the robe and the ring and the sandals and the feast. Because the father does not accept the son's renegotiated identity, he refuses it completely. He does not say, "Yes, you are right. You forfeited your sonship, but I forgive you anyway and you can work here as a servant." He says, "No, you are my son. You were always my son. Put the robe on him. Put the ring on his finger. Put sandals on his feet. My son was lost, and now he is found." I want to spend a moment on these three things because each one of them is speaking directly to the identity question at the center of this story. The robe the father puts on the son is not just a piece of clothing. In that culture, the best robe was a symbol of honor and family standing. It covered everything the son was wearing from the pig farm. It covered the shame of where he had been, and it replaced it publicly with the honor of who he still was. The ring was a signet ring, a symbol of authority and family membership. Putting a ring on the son's finger was not a sentimental gesture. It was a legal and social statement. This man belongs to this family. He carries this name. He has standing here. The sandals are perhaps the most personal of all. Servants did not wear sandals. Only family members did. By putting sandals on the son's feet, the father was drawing the sharpest possible line between what the son had tried to negotiate, a servant's place, and what the father was insisting on, a son's place. "You are not a servant here. You are my child. Sandals on. Come inside." Every single gift the father gives is not about rewarding the son for coming home. It is about restoring to the son the identity he thought he had lost forever. And every single one of them says the same thing: you were always a son. The far country did not change that. The pigs did not change that. The shame does not change that. You are my son. You always were. Come home to who you are. There is a second half of this parable that most conversations skip over too quickly, and it matters enormously for the identity theme running through the whole story. The older son has stayed home the whole time. He has worked faithfully. He has never left. And when he hears the party happening for his returning brother, he is angry. He refuses to go inside. Notice what the older son calls himself. He says he has been slaving, not serving, not living as a son, slaving. He has been physically present in the father's house for years, but he has been living inside his own head as a servant the whole time. He has been obedient, but he has not been at home in his own identity. He knows his duties, but he has lost his delight. He has the position of a son, but the posture of a hired hand, who believes love has to be earned by performance and can be lost by failure. And the father goes out to him too, just like he ran to the younger son. He comes out to where the older son is standing, refusing to come in. And he says something that should stop all of us cold. "You are always with me. Everything I have is yours." The older son had been living as if he needed to earn what he already owned. He was already inside the inheritance. He was already the beloved son. He just had not believed it. And that unbelief cost him just as much as the younger son's rebellion. It just looked different from the outside. So here is what I want you to carry with you from this story today. If you have been living in a far country, literally or emotionally, the moment you come to yourself is not too late. The road home is open, and if you look up, I believe you will find that someone is already running toward you before you have finished rehearsing your apology. Thank you so much for watching. If this opened up the parable in a new way for you, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you have not already. I will see you in the next one.